How's everyone doing today? It's JJ Domination. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more Madden content. Yeah, today we are here because we are talking about the NFL draft and players who I think you need to keep an eye on. It's really going to be like top end players, like guys who, I feel like are going to be drafted within like the first 3 rounds, but really I feel like everybody should keep an eye on these players and kind of see what they do, because I feel like depending on what goes down at the combine, it may either positively or negatively affect your draft stock. And I'm going to give you basically 1 or 2 guys from every position, except for like, special teams and stuff like that. But you'll get what I'm saying. So for the quarterback position, the one guy that I'm really wanting to keep my eye on is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray, of course, the only thing, I don't even want to say the only thing, no offense to people who actually have this idiotic mindset, but everybody's looking at his size and like his height. That's all everybody cares about is his height, the size, because he's small. I mean, there's no denying it. But that's like the only thing people are looking towards. And all I'm gonna say is, without ranting on people that are anti Kyler Murray, the only thing I know is I have not heard anyone say one bad thing about how he's played. I haven't. I've heard like some negatives in this game, but I haven't really heard like anybody just flat out say the dude can't play, he sucks, he's not going to be anything in the NFL. The only thing I hear is people saying, oh, he's like 5'9", and he's, like 180 pounds, and he's got small hands. Yeah, that's what people were saying about, I don't know, Baker Mayfield last year. And I think he turned out to be okay. Just, for the most part. People were saying the same thing about Jared Goff. He's got small hands. He's not going to be that good. Year 1, you were right. Year 2, year 3, kind of wrong. So we hear this same thing all the time. People just speak negatively on his name, and all I know is, it's going to depend on what happens. No one's questioning how good he is. People just have concerns about his height, which I think are kind of stupid, because we have seen a lot of people nowadays play really good, being under 6 foot tall. Fun fact, quarterbacks over 6 foot have more passes batted down at the line of scrimmage than quarterbacks who aren't 6 foot or taller. So it doesn't really matter how tall you are when it comes to like that particular stat line. I don't really think being too small really handicaps how you play. I mean, yeah, you would like to be an ideal size, but I don't really think it's going to handicap a guy like Kyler Murray, who was an absolute stud, a Heisman winner, rightfully deserving to be the Heisman winner. But definitely in the combine, I mean, the only thing I'm going to be looking for is just to see if he can, just absolutely kill it in the throwing drills. We've seen quarterbacks in the past not participate in throwing drills. Kyler Murray already said he's going to be at the combine, and he is looking to participate in the throwing drills and stuff. And I hope he just goes out there and puts everybody to shame. I mean, I don't think he'll be like, I don't know if he'll be the best thrower or not. It kind of just really depends. But it wouldn't surprise me if he is. I mean, he's just a really damn good player. And he's proven it, time and time again. I mean, he came in the year after Baker Mayfield left and broke a lot of his records. And you saw what Baker Mayfield was last season on the Cleveland Browns, where quarterbacks go to die. Yeah, he won. He didn't win Rookie of the Year, but definitely had a strong case to be Rookie of the Year. Anyway, at the running back position, enough talking about Kyler Murray. I told you I didn't want to rant. I have a few running backs in mind, but I'll only give you a couple. One of them being Josh Jacobs. A lot of people have him being like the first running back taken off the board, probably even the only first rounder at running back off the board. And it's crazy because when you think about Josh Jacobs and you think about Alabama, he wasn't the starter. He was like a rotation guy with Damian Harris. But the reason people are so intrigued with Josh Jacobs is he had a limited role but he has significantly less mileage on him than any of the other running backs in the draft, which serves as an advantage and a disadvantage. It serves as a disadvantage because, typically when you don't have like a whole lot of snaps, people are like, oh, you were using a limited role. Why would I draft a guy so high if he's just going to be a limited player because of his lack of carries and receptions and stuff? But to me, it serves as an advantage because less mileage on him. His career is going to last longer because he didn't have a heavy workload as a college student and a college athlete. So to me, it's an advantage. I can see it from both perspectives. So I want to see what Josh Jacobs does. He is an intriguing prospect. I've seen him compared to like all sorts of running backs. I mean, I don't know who he's going to be. Hopefully he can just be the one and only Josh Jacobs. But I've seen some wild comparisons, and I've seen some pretty fair ones. I'm not going to share them because I don't want to I don't want people being like, really? He was compared to him? These guys don't know anything. Well, Derrick Henry was compared to a linebacker, so that's all I'm going to say. Also at running back, Elijah Holyfield. Maybe it's a little UGA bias because, I do live in the South and both running backs play in the SEC. But Elijah Holyfield, to me, is going to be the NFL's ideal power back. A guy with a quick burst, but can lower those shoulder pads and absolutely run over somebody. I think he could be a prototypical power back for any offense out there who needs one. In today's NFL, unless, you have an elite running back, a lot of teams use multiple running backs. I mean, the Patriots use 3 or 4 running backs this year. They use Sony Michel, Rex Burkhead, and James White. We see offenses like the Ravens. The Ravens are even using a bunch of running backs. The Chargers have come around to using 2 running backs with Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler. We saw even though it was unfortunate, like the Todd Gurley injury, we saw Todd Gurley and C.J. Anderson, and sometimes even Malcolm Brown share a backfield. So it's not completely insane to think that teams won't draft a running back. And I'll give you a team who might be in the market for a running back. The Philadelphia Eagles. Jay Ajayi, he's been banged up the last 2 or 3 seasons in his career. Wendell Smallwood and Corey Clement, however you say his name, they're not a go-to running back in between the tackles, but they are pretty good at what they do in the receiving game. And maybe they could be in the market for a Josh Jacobs, or maybe in the 3rd round, or maybe even the 4th round, depending on his stock. Maybe you go with an Elijah Holyfield, who I think will definitely be there around that range. I think he's going to be a good pro depending on where he goes and if he gets used correctly as a power back. You look at Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard in the NFL, he was a 4th round pick, and he is one of the better power backs in today's game. I know he had an off year last season, but that's because they really didn't give him the carries that he warranted, and they played Tariq Cohen a lot more, which Tariq Cohen deserves to be on the field. I'm not saying that, but if you want to establish the run game, Tariq Cohen's not the guy you establish the run game with. He's the guy that opens up passing lanes for Allen Robinson and Trey Burton. But anyway, Elijah Holyfield and Josh Jacobs are the guys. At wide receiver, I kind of want to see what Metcalf can do. DJ Metcalf, I think that's his name, right? He's the dude with the absolute jacked body. You've seen the viral picture of him and a weight room. He did have an injury, I believe, last season at Ole Miss, so his draft stock could possibly be hindered by that. But I feel like with a great performance here in the combine, he's going to climb back up the boards fairly easily. So that's an interesting way of looking at it, I guess. Other receivers, Deebo Samuel, he's more of a speedy guy who could play in the slot. He could possibly be a 2nd round or 3rd round pick. Andy Isabella from UMass. You want to talk about your small school prospects? Here's the guy who had 15 catches against UGA. I didn't get to go to the UMass game. I almost did, but I think something fell through. But yeah, Andy Isabella, small school prospect. And then of course you have Hunter Renfrow. I can't think of dude's name, but he played at Clemson. He's I hate to say it like this, but he's the white receiver from Clemson. Really good. Could possibly be a late round pick. I definitely think he has what it takes to make a roster, but we'll wait and see, I suppose. There's definitely a lot of good wide receiver talent. I mean, people are just so worked up over the name value, but dude, if you come out and ball, you're going to make a name for yourself. And to me, that's the biggest thing. At tight end, Noah Fant and TJ Hawkinson, the Iowa tight ends, we could potentially see 2 tight ends from the same school go in the first round. And it's not crazy to think about either. People are like, oh, no way that, both of those guys go in the first round. I can only see one of them. Crazier things have happened, dude. I wouldn't rule it out. Those are really the 2 clear-cut tight ends. But, of course, some guys, like I said, the combine is going to be used to separate yourself from the pack. I think we could see another tight end on the rise. Maybe True Sample from Washington. I think there's a guy coming out of Kentucky as well. I can't remember some of the names, but, I hear about them all the time, so that's why I bring them up. On the offensive line, Jonah Williams. People are talking about how he has small arms and he may not be a polished tackle. He is a technician at that tackle spot, and he has been a home stay for Alabama. And I think he's going to be a solid tackle, unlike what we've seen from Cam Robinson so far, at left tackle for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Jonah Williams is a better prospect coming out and just a better player than Cam Robinson. Say what you want to, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I'm excited to see him. Of course, Cody Ford, he's one of those guys who could play every position, literally every position on the offensive line. And versatility is key. If you have a major injury, let's say your right tackle goes down, no big deal, plug and play. Cody Ford definitely will bring versatility. And if you look at Oklahoma offensive lineman Orlando Brown, I know he had a crappy combine in terms of the 40 and other drills, agility drills and stuff, but he was really a big mauler at right tackle, and he played pretty well at right tackle. So Cody Ford could be the next guy. Jawan Taylor, I think he hurt his hamstring, so he's not going to be at the combine, but I still think it's not going to affect his draft stock too much. Maybe if he's clear to go for his pro day, maybe we'll see him work out there. But it's important to work out at the combine because everybody's going to be there. When I say everyone, I mean all the executives are in the building, guys who are in the draft room, they're going to be in the house, NFL personnel, NFL, ex-NFL players and current NFL players. A lot of guys are going to be in the house, so you're going to want to show out and leave a lasting impression on a big audience. So to miss out on the combine, it kind of sucks. But now to the fun part, man, defense. Defense, you know what they say, man, it wins championships. And in the Super Bowl, we kind of saw that at firsthand. This defensive class, let me tell you, at least the front 7, mainly the defensive line, it's stacked. I mean, think about it. Clemson, not saying it's going to happen, they could have 4 first-round picks on their defensive line alone. I think it's going to be at least 2 or 3, but I would not be surprised if all 4 were just yeah, you're going to be first-rounders. That's how good their defensive line is. I mean, Cleveland Farrell leads the pack, in my opinion, the best, pass rusher out of the group. Then you have Dexter Lawrence, who is a very dominant interior player. You have Austin Bryant, who's solid. And Christian Wilkins, who's another big body at defensive tackle, who could possibly, or not defensive tackle, but, he's kind of like a guy who could play all over the defensive line. So, of course you're going to look out for all of them. Ja'Kai Polite, him and Josh Allen both doubled their production last season at their respective SEC schools. Polite, of course, going to Florida. Josh Allen going to Kentucky. They both doubled their production. I think people are going to want to see how they test. Both guys, of course, have a lot of upside. And if they both can show versatility as a coverage guy as well, I think they're going to have a market just about everywhere. And I don't think that's too crazy. So I'm really going to keep my eyes on those smaller defensive ends and edge rushers like Brian Burns as well. To me, he kind of reminds me of Danielle Hunter for the Vikings. Kind of a slimmer body type, but really effective as a pass rusher. So I wouldn't be too surprised, if he were to be like a good NFL player. He could play 3-4 outside linebacker. He's probably a little too small to be a defensive end in terms of his body type, but if he's a dominant like presence, then who cares? You know what I'm saying? If he's dominant, who cares? Interior defensive lineman, though, strictly, of course, Ed Oliver and Quentin Williams. They're the two guys who everyone's going to want to see. People are saying Ed Oliver's undersized, but him and Quentin Williams really aren't that far apart in terms of weight and even size. So I don't really understand the undersized comments for Ed Oliver. They said the same thing about Aaron Donald, and he turned out to be just fine. I'm pretty sure Warren Sapp was undersized. He turned out to be just fine. So enough with the undersized crap. If you're a dominant player, that's all that matters to me. At linebacker, the Devons, man. Devin White and Devin Bush. Devin White from LSU. He's going to get like lazy comparisons to Deion Jones because they both went to LSU and they both were dominant linebackers. Devin White, fun story about him. He used to be a running back. As a matter of fact, I believe he was recruited as a running back. And to me, that's a huge advantage for a guy coming into the NFL, and I'll tell you why. So being a running back in college, or coming into college as a running back and transitioning to linebacker, to me it's an advantage because if you are a linebacker who used to be a running back, you're going to know how to control the gaps and how to blitz and read where the running back's going, especially if you were a good running back that transitioned to linebacker. And we kind of seen a guy like that in the NFL already, Miles Jack. Miles Jack used to be a running back, and he's a linebacker for the Jaguars, a really good one at that. So maybe he's the next Miles Jack. I don't know. Devin White, a very intriguing prospect. And then Devin Bush, kind of like a typical, run defender, or a thumper in the, defense. Maybe a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers could use Devin Bush. Definitely would like to see that. For the cornerback position, everyone's going to say Greedy Williams and Byron Murphy and DeAndre Baker. I'm going to say the same thing. I want to see what DeAndre Baker does because he did win the Jim Thorpe Award, which is like, I don't know, what is it, the best DB in college award, basically. And, he plays a lot bigger than what he actually is. I want to say he's like 5'11", but he plays like he's Richard Sherman's size, if that makes sense. So he plays like he's like 4 inches taller. And he's a very instinctive corner. I think in a defense where, he's allowed to like kind of think a little bit and read, that's going to really come in handy. So if he plays in like a zone-oriented defense, he's going to flourish. But if he goes to like a man-press defense, it could be... I'm not going to say it could be a struggle, but it's not an ideal fit for a guy of his caliber and what he brings to the table. I also like Byron Murphy. He's also one of those players who was in a zone coverage. He did play at Washington, and just to give you a perspective of some Washington players, of course we have Marcus Peters, who was a part of that same scheme, Kevin King, of course. Let's see, I'm trying to think of some names. Shaq Thompson, who used to be a safety, now converted to linebacker. I'm trying to think of some names. I'm pretty sure I'm forgetting guys. Sidney Jones also comes to mind. Budda Baker. So there's some guys in the NFL who have played for that Washington defense, which is a zone-oriented defense. And, Byron Murphy, man, maybe he works well at it. Safeties, Nasir Adderley, another small school prospect, I should say. Some of those things you can't teach, and I know people are kind of weary and scared of like the small school prospects. Remember Khalil Mack, anyone? Where did he play at? Oh, that's right, Buffalo. The University of Buffalo, small school. And people were like, oh, what about the level of competition he's faced? Yeah, let's just say Khalil Mack is one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. Let's just say that. Of course. But yeah, Adderley, a traditional, like, single high over-the-top safety, could be very good in today's NFL. Could be, like, basically the modern-day safety. He could be very good. Taylor Rapp, of course, played at Washington. So, you know, if you know your Washington, like, secondary mates very well, then you know he could be a solid player as well. Jonathan Abram from Mississippi State. I think he could be an in-the-box safety. He's pretty decent in coverage as well, but are they going to do what, like, the Browns did with Jabril Peppers? Like, is an NFL team going to do what the Browns did to Jabril Peppers and not know how to play him? Or are they going to let him do a little bit of everything and not just limit him to one thing? Oh, there you guys have it. Those are all the players that I'm going to be looking at in this year's NFL draft. The draft is Friday. I'm recording this on Monday. It'll probably be up Tuesday or Wednesday, so be on the lookout for this video. I also should be having another episode of the J&A podcast before the Combine, grading the NFC teams with Aaron on the J&A podcast. If you are new, go ahead and like the video and subscribe for more Madden content. If you have any other guys that I didn't list that you want to look out for in the draft, you go ahead and let me know, man, because I know there's a lot of guys out there, you know, that I did not name that obviously deserve to be named. But you let me know, man, like, who else are you looking at? But don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you're new, share, man, share the video, get people watching, and we will see you next time.